Sarah, tell us about what the opposition in Uganda is saying. And I remember having a conversation with Bobi Wine's party, and they were saying that even though there is this compromise of the elections, but they still feel that they must participate in these polls.
Indeed, and just this evening, Bobi Wine tweeting that he's confident that he is going to win the elections, and he linked this to 1 million followers on his Twitter account in the last 24 hours, saying that this could be a sign that things are indeed well for him. And he continues to use the hashtag "We are removing a dictator." We've seen also the FDC candidate Patrick Amuriat also coming up to talk about the elections. Speaking about the clamping down on the opposition, on the media, including the latest now, the blockade of the internet, but also reports by the Electoral Commission that journalists will not be allowed anywhere near the polling stations. They are not allowed to film the polling stations, saying that this is going to be a threat to security. The Electoral Commission has also further gone to say that they are the only ones who are authorized to give any results, whether provisional, whether from the polling stations. So all these things now are adding up to what Bobi Wine has been saying, and the opposition has been saying, that the Electoral Commission is not independent and that it is working together with the current administration to continue making it difficult for the country to have a free and fair election.
Because from that statement as well that was issued by the US Embassy in Uganda, they also say that there's this decision that has been taken by the Electoral Commission only to grant about 14 of its observers accreditation to observe these elections. However, though, there hasn't been an explanation why the others were declined.
Yes, indeed. And the only international observers we know that are in the country at the moment is the ones, but they are accredited to the African Union, the East African Community. But the rest have, just like the international media, have had it very difficult to conduct any observation or to even carry out their work freely in Uganda. So this has been a succession. It's not starting now. It's something that has been going on for some time. And so all this now is what is adding up indeed. The East African Observation Mission, here made up of civil society organizations, has come out to say that the trends that they're seeing in Uganda and what they saw in Tanzania previously continue to show a regression of gains that had been made in democracy in the region. And so they're now saying it is worrying. Indeed, civil society organizations from the region that had sought accreditation to go and observe the elections inside the country have been denied that accreditation, they told us.
Frederick, considering the previous elections that have taken place in Uganda, would you say that people in Uganda, or the electorate in Uganda, could have confidence or even lack the confidence in the African Union observers, including the bloc observers who would be allowed to observe these elections?
Seem to have lost.
Hi, Frederick.
I was going to say that in this country we don't usually take the opinions of observers as a serious indication of what has happened, because the observers arrive in the country very much towards the election itself. But the outcome of these elections is usually determined way before election polling day. Now,
why do you say that?
Well, as I have told you, all the obstructions of opposition candidates, all the arrests and incarceration of their supporters and agents, all these things add up to what makes elections prone to being doubted as to the validity of their outcomes. So when observers come in, they come in a bit late. And it's almost a given that they will always say, oh, well, the process was free and fair except for this and that. But if you've been following the process right from the beginning, it's very clear, for instance, this particular one, that it's very difficult. I mean, Bobi Wine may express optimism about winning, but the experience of Ugandans in this country with elections suggests that it's very, very difficult for anyone other than President Museveni to win the election.
listening into
and,
what...
even his own supporters,
Yeah.
if you talk to some of his supporters, they are sure he's going to win, but they will not tell you that he's going to win because the process is going to be clean.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question, just listening into what Sarah had to say, that the tweet that Bobby sent out earlier on, that you move into these elections and you move in confidently into the elections, but it's also part of politics, right? You won't say that I'm going to be contesting elections with the intention of losing the elections. So you'd speak about a successful outcome of the elections where you are victorious. But what is it that Bobi Wine could be relying on that he would emerge victorious out of these polls, considering the picture that you've painted of how the elections have been flawed previously?
I think that his optimism would spring from the reception he has got from voters across the country. And in many ways, observers like myself have been rather surprised that he got that kind of reception. In the beginning, he wasn't taken very seriously. Mm-hmm. But once the campaigns began, he has had massive turnouts, especially of young people across the country. And this is partly why the government seems to have become rather frightened of what was happening, and therefore what drove their determination to obstruct him and make it impossible for him to campaign. And if you listen to the way people have been talking, including people who have traditionally voted for President Museveni, the more he has been harassed, the more people have said, oh, well, we will vote for him because of the way they have treated him.
Yeah.
So the massive turnouts of young people, the determination by young people who have been organizing his campaigns and moving around with him across the country, it suggests that this time around, Ugandans may vote in far larger numbers than how they have done in the past. So, for that reason, one can see why he would be optimistic that he would win. But let's not forget that in the end, the Electoral Commission, as your correspondent was pointing out, is not trusted in this country to be independent. It is seen to be a poodle of the sitting government.
Yeah.
The deployment of the security forces across various constituencies in the country, and it seems like they have deployed most heavily in areas where they suspect Bobi Wine to have most support. Now, that has the effect of intimidating voters who may decide not to come out to vote because they say, oh, well, this is evidence again that President Museveni has already stolen the election. Why bother to go out and vote? So I can sympathize with Bobi Wine's optimism, but look, I have observed all the elections that President Museveni has taken part in this country, and I wouldn't be surprised that he's going to win. It would be a massive shock to me if Bobi Wine won, although I'm quite sympathetic to his cause. I'm not sure he has so many chances.
And Sarah, there's another conversation to be had
here. If I may step in there before you even ask your question, when you look at Bobi Wine and you look at the age, the median age of Uganda, a lot of the young people in Uganda actually, almost would say 65% of the population has not known any other president. They look around in the countries neighboring them, whether it is Kenya, whether it is Rwanda, whether it's Tanzania, they see that there is presidents come and go and elections are done and leadership changes hands. And when you look at the conversations they're having on social media, a lot of them are saying, he was president before I was born. I have only grown in Uganda knowing one leader. So many of them are also identifying with the struggles of Bobi Wine, the ghetto president. So many of them feeling he's one of their own. Even though he may find it very difficult to win, he now has a following of young people who believe that if Bobi Wine can reach this level in terms of the campaigns, in terms of, the ambition, then they feel he's one of their own. And maybe that is where you see, especially in the urban areas, is where then you see that he has this kind of support that we are seeing, almost, you'd say, maniac support that he is getting.
Yeah. But what about Yoweri Museveni himself, who, as you've now pointed out, has been governing since 1986? And within the African Union, there has been that conversation that has been going on. Remember, even the last time that former US President Barack Obama was in the country and he was addressing the African Union, he spoke about the presidents for life. that this needs to come to an end. And you would get the sense that that is what most leaders within the African Union want to go for, but that's not really translating because some leaders are still sticking on.
And indeed, we've seen in the continent leaders changing the constitution so that they continue staying on power. Previously, we had presidents for life, but now because constitutions had been made and you knew that you were only going to serve 2 terms and leave, including President Museveni has spoken to Mr. Gooloba before during the last election, and at the time he had just changed the constitution so that then he can run again. And this is what is happening in most of the countries now. For African Union, they may have a problem. One, because President Museveni is much older than the leaders in the continent, the African Union, when they sit at the table, who would hold him to account. If you've attended African Union summits, you've seen how he lectures the rest of their peers, and so many of them would find it difficult maybe to tell him to his face that it's time to pack and go. But also, when you look at the place of Uganda, the guarantors of the peace to South Sudan, they're in a big way in Somalia. So some of these things, for the stability of the region, they sometimes feel that they need these leaders like Museveni, who is sending his troops across the continent to keep peace, to be able to continue having the stability in those parts of the continent, not just at home.
But then, Frederick, all of that comes at the cost of brand new ideas to take Uganda forward. You can't just solely rely on the allegiance that has been built between the administration of Yoweri Museveni as well as the African Union.
Yes, I think that it's not an exaggeration to say that people who are supporting Bobi Wine are supporting him because of this feeling that the president has been around for too long and he has reached the limits of his creativity and there is really nothing new that he's going to do, and that he's only clinging on to power because he's power hungry. So there is a massive wave of the desire for change in this country and for the country to start afresh. President Museveni has done well in many areas, but it's clear that in some areas we now need fresh hands, and that feeling is even expressed among the ranks of his own supporters.
Just quickly, before we end this conversation, so if the Electoral Commission comes out and then declares that Yoweri Museveni has won these elections, considering the picture that you've painted around the youthful population that there is and electorate as well, what do you think would play out?
I think President Museveni has really been in his element in as far as he has made contingency plans for that. If you look at Kampala as we speak, Kampala looks like a war zone because of the very heavy deployment of troops, including with really heavy weaponry. People are wondering whether we are going into an election or whether Uganda is going to be at war with another country. Are we being invaded or not? So I think that this is going to serve as a deterrent to even young people who might otherwise have lost their temper and decided to destroy property or demonstrate or riot. But what is going to happen, I think that in the long term, whatever happens, President Museveni is going to get the message that this country, a lot of people in this country really want to see change, and that message will come from the very large turnout, and possibly even if the results declared, the Electoral Commission did not reflect reality, whoever would have changed the results would have known that very many people voted for another candidate rather than President Museveni.
Thank you.
This is going to stoke anger, and I think that the next term for President Museveni is not going to see his popularity rise, but it's going to decline, and he's going to be running a country where a lot of people feel like they are captives to a president who doesn't want to leave.
Okay, and so his legitimacy will also come into question. Frederick Gooloba-Mutebi, thank you so much for your time, as well as our East correspondent, Sarah Kimani. We're going to go to a quick ad break. When we come back, that exclusive interview that Peter Ndoro had with Maria van Kerkhoff.